Is Unthink Me with Adam and James.
In the morning.
In the morning.
Listening to Endless Love. But
Up
yeah, that
next,
is
we have Initial Thrust by Dick Smith.
Initial Thrust. I don't know how this song goes. I make it
got the album,
how
but no record player.
I think it goes. Cause I've never heard the song. Cause record album's the only good part. Hello there. We've arbitrarily cobbled together an intro and chosen a time to start our episode. Here we are. This is Unthink Me. I'm Adam.
Welcome.
I hope you're feeling welcome at this point. We've gone to extraordinary efforts to make you feel that way. At this point, it's kind of on you how you feel about this. See, James is feeling a little squeamish right now, and we're gonna soldier on.
Mediocre efforts to make you feel welcome, and I will not change a thing.
It's not. I don't think it's for lack of effort. I think it's just genuine incompetence.
I am an asshole.
Well, we're gonna get back a little bit to businessy kind of stuff today. We're gonna talk about. I think we have just a lot to talk about in terms of applications of the altitudes model to conflict and interpersonal conflict mediation kind of things. And in this episode, the thing that we'd kind of lined up for ourselves as a signpost is trying to work out in terms of the integral model, the distinction between leadership and management and leadership. What is the difference? Do you know at home? But as we begin here, I just wanted to say we've been having a lovely couple of weeks. We're growing our community. We're having outstanding conversations, and we're bringing new faces into our flock. And I do, once again, as always, I want to encourage all you guys, even though you're probably not on the app, get yourself on that Discord. It's totally free. You can join our server, and you can participate in these dialogues, which are kind of taking the place of our extraordinary tendency to participate in our own YouTube comments. So we're trying to move the conversation over to that platform, and we're having an awesome time with it. Allows us to talk to each other in person, in real life, across the world. So we hope you'll get involved with that as people who watch our channel and who are engaged with what we're doing and who are curious to have these second-tier discussions with ordinary old people, just ordinary old people, such as us. What do you think about all that, Silent Bob?
I saw a comment that made me chuckle a little bit, and not at the expense of the poster, but just of how absurd it seemed. And I hope they know I think it's absurd because, like, you're worth every penny of yourself, honey. It was a post that said, oh no, tear face. Like, I've gone down to orange. Like, of course you have. We all do. I'll go down to beige if I feel like it.
That whole thing was a little bit of a stunt, but
oh my God.
I will say though that
into its trap.
I will say though that I genuinely experienced that where I do regress. I become self-aware of it. I'm not in denial of it, and yeah, tear face for sure. It sucks to regress. You know, it's like something you built up, kind of backslid, and now you're back where you started, a little wiser, but with nothing to show for your struggles and development and eros trying to ascend.
That's the name of the game, honey.
That's the name of the game. The waves come up.
The game is
you build the sandcastle and the waves
punishment.
come up, and it's all utterly meaningless, but not in a negative way. Just as that is the
great
nature
news
of,
is
Gusher's
whether
Fruit
the
Snack
tide is
Adventure.
high or low, there's still sand.
Because of the water crushing all the rocks, there can't not be sand. If you find a beach without sand, you bring me over there, honey.
You have been
It's
to
just
Oregon.
the ocean. Well, you call it not
Nothing
sand
but,
because
like,
of your size. Those giant
rocks.
shards, that's sand.
This is like really big sand, you guys.
To my mind, this I started kind of thinking about this, and it kind of breaks down into the quadrants. And I think about, in all the situations where I'm collaborating with people towards a common goal, whenever I'm in like a teamwork setting, this dynamic comes out where I'm like, what does this situation need right now? Does this situation need the individuals to be persuaded of something, or does the situation just need to be under control, like needs to have some rules and parameters for everyone to operate by? And so to whatever extent you're motivating people and trying to persuade them and get them coherent together, I think you're in your lower left quadrant. You're in an interior domain, interior collective domain. And to whatever extent you're just trying to make a set it and forget it Bostron 5000 kind of situation where you're more just trying to get everybody on the same page as far as what are the rules of this system and what is, can we all quantify goals and time-bound things and quantifiable things. That's lower right. I'm seeing that as like lower right. Who knows to what extent people actually mean it that way when they use those terms. I just kind of feel like whenever I'm called upon to be a leader, I'm kind of faced with that dichotomy. Is it a people approach or is it a system approach?
Ultimately, you can't have one without the other.
Like love and marriage.
A leader with no followers is nothing. A manager with no followers is still kind of a manager, but management v leadership. If so, you basically hit the nail right on the tip. A manager sees to it that pre-existing systems are run smoothly. Now, sometimes that does take motivation, and does take certain motivations and cultivating people to adhere to the system. But it is our system. Lower right.
Lower right.
A manager or a leader does also need those systems. The difference, a big difference is a manager has a limited capacity to change the systems. They can tweak them.
Which is unfortunate because they're called a manager. Yeah, totally. They almost never, a person in a manager position is almost always, they're being asked to do lower left shit, but on paper it looks like a lower right thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's all about motivating at that level when you're a manager.
Yes, it's about motivating on both sides. A leader motivates to the point where they convince their followers, we'll say, their employees, their teammates, their bandmates, whoever, to see at a higher level than maybe that they would see on their own. There's a lot of leadership books and things that use specific like catchphrases and catchwords, but the tide rises all ships. So a manager would be, this is a ship, this is the sail, this is the stern, keel, aft, port, whatever. And they will remain that way. And we will be a ship regardless of the tide. Where a leader sees the tide level and says, okay, we are still all of these things. And as the tide rises, we all rise with it. And so the leader is motivating the tide to come in in a group setting, whereas a manager says, kind of no matter where we're at, we've still got standard of practice and mission critical things. Yeah. So a manager's personal motivation is to complete task, complete project. Keep these people, followers, keep these people doing what needs to be done to hit said objective, which is usually preset. A leader
it's some sort of measure of like productivity or sales or revenue. It's a quantifiable, like the group you can tell the group did well because they're materially succeeding.
We got the album recorded.
Quotas. Yeah.
We
right.
beat the other sports team.
Measurable.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas a leader still managing, still keeping proper systems in place would say more unquantifiable things. What is we can get the album recorded, but we're going to break up as soon as that's over because we were at each other's throats the entire time. Could be management, could be anything, but a leader would change the system so that once that album is recorded, people can't wait to get the next one because of everything that they learned, complete transparency, everyone's sort of involved in the shifting of the thing.
Good leadership, motivation, inspiration. And good leadership without management, you could convince everybody to go and jump off a cliff and feel amazing about it and feel like they participated in an amazing
Well, no one would show up.
martyrdom. Yeah.
They want to do it, but then no one showed up, or they showed up to the wrong cliff.
Or I got them to show up and they just did something foolish because they believed in it. As far as I'm talking about like a Pied Piper, like a leadership without management, all action, no thought, to put it in the waking life scenario. All thought, no action, all action, no thought. But like management without leadership is kind of like Walmart style. It's like alienation in the workplace, alienation from the means of production. It's like there's this
Lack of
soulless system
communication.
that has nothing to do
No
with
one
me.
no one knows what the ultimate goal is. It's just like
I'm
you
being
know what
wrung
the
out.
next benchmark is. That's
Yeah.
it. What's the next celebratable thing? That's all you know. Maybe you don't even know that. You just know complete A, B, and C over and over again until I tell you to stop.
One of the key nodes I notice in conflict and business, once you get to orange, when you're solid in orange, there's a transition. It's really well articulated in the United States social system. It's really well articulated in Ayn Rand. It's coercion or leadership by force becomes unacceptable, and it then becomes all about persuasion and convincing. So as a leader or a manager, but particularly a leader, is noticeably at orange, they no longer will threaten you. They no longer will try to intimidate you or use like emotional tactics against you. It becomes, I want you to do this, and actually you want to do this too. If we saw eye to eye, you would see the same thing as me, and we would work together because it's just logical. That's like orange meme.
A manager, a quick little thought experiment. A manager speaks first. A leader speaks last. Why do you think that is?
I mean, it makes sense, but maybe you could articulate it. I mean, yeah, I feel like you want to build a skeleton before you put visceral material on it.
Basically, yeah. So if a manager, it's all about communication. That's one of the biggest differences between a manager and a leader.
100%, yeah.
A manager would speak first, dictating goals, outlines, benchmarks, maybe the end goal, maybe not. But here it is. Here's what we've got. We need to do this. We need to do that. Or you need to do this. You need to do that. Even worse manager. But a manager on the cusp of becoming a leader would say, we need to get this done. A leader would say, what do you think we need to, what's going on here? And let everyone else talk. At the end, take little tiny tidbits of what everyone said and funnel that into a grand plan. And everyone's like, oh my God, I was thinking the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You literally were. And you just took everything from the room, the one person, whatever. And the leader was able to say, okay, our goal ladder ends at 12 feet. We're at 1 foot. They'll talk about 12 feet the entire time, or the 12th rung the entire time.
Honey.
So the leader will talk about the 12th rung. If we're going up 12 steps of a ladder, they'll talk about the 12th rung from the ground all the way up, and different ways of getting there. Oh, well, we tried to step up this one, but we slipped back a little bit. Great. You know what that happened? We learned a bunch. And here's how we're going to get to 12. Where a manager says, we're on the ground. Maybe you need to get to 12 or not. But here's how you get to rung 1. Go do it.
You know what this suggests to me is differences in the way you approach chess as you get to know it. Like really in chess, you could look at the board at any point and you know everything you need to know. It doesn't actually matter what happened before unless you're trying to like psychologically profile your opponent, and in which case they might be deliberately playing that against you if you're getting paranoid. Mm-hmm. So the manager just sees the state as it is now. How do we change the state? What are the time dynamics that are changing the state? How do we apply calculus to that? Whereas the leader is a storyteller. They want you to basically, whatever the narrative is, whatever the program is, we want you to feel like that's your idea. And we want to try and communicate with you to make it feel like, well, this is our idea, this is your idea. I'm not cramming this down your throat.
The military gives a perfect example of it. Once you get to higher level performing functions, so if it's a particular mission, the leader, captain, sergeant, whoever, says, "All right, how are we going to do this?" Because if these soldiers in the situation aren't bought into the entire plan, it is going to fail. So in a lot of the leadership books, again, lingo, it's called making riverbanks. The water can flow any direction, heavy, deep, shallow, it doesn't matter. You are creating riverbanks. Here is as far this direction as I'm going to let this go. Here is as far of this direction as I'm going to let it go. You can operate anywhere in between these riverbanks. So if I said, Adam,
So you're
how do
seeing
you
it as
want to
like
meet?
boundaries with like kind of gray zones, as you're saying. There's kind of a continuum, not like hard edges.
No, there are hard edges.
Okay, so what's
But
the riverbank analogy?
so I would say, Adam, we've got goal A to execute. How do you think we should do this? Now, I know that as a leader or manager in the situation so far, I know that we cannot operate at over $100 budget for this goal. And I also know that we cannot operate longer than a 2 week cycle or whatever. So
Okay,
those are
so hard
kind of some
parameters
riverbanks.
as yeah, like as the parameters that define the constraints. Yeah.
Someone says, "Oh, I've got an awesome plan. It's just going to take 15 days
Hmm.
and $101." Okay, well, I know that that's hit both riverbanks. I'm not going to tell you no because that's diminishing and you'll never have another idea in your life. Great. Does anyone have something to add to that could maybe get us down a couple days or a few dollars, and then play it back and forth? This could be a room full of people or one-on-one. I really like that idea. What do you think we could implement or take away that would shave $10 or $20 off? Okay, well then it becomes a conversation. That person is being developed in critical thinking skills. You didn't tell them in the beginning, there's $100 here and 2 weeks here. Because if you do that with a normal thinking person, it will cost exactly $100 and it will take exactly 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah.
So if I don't tell you what those parameters are, maybe you come in with an idea that'll get it done in 3 days and cost $7.
Yeah. And so I think that what you're saying is like the leader doesn't just give you all the data. They know what their hard limits are, and they're coming in trying to negotiate things, hoping to chisel your efficiency in your role to the best that it can be, because they know everyone has this subconscious or conscious tendency to gold brick, to be like, well, if my budget's this high, I'm going to use all of it. And if I can take 2 weeks, I'm going to take 2 weeks and get it done right on time. But if you told me I had to get it done day after tomorrow, I could probably do it.
I
Just fuck
think
up
it
my whole
was
week.
President Jefferson, one of that era presidents, like who knows, on the money,
Racist.
said, "Well, of course they all were, honey.
Now, what country do you
Every
think this is?
every task will take exactly as long as allocated." It's true. If I give you 2 weeks, it's going to take 2 weeks. If I give you 8 hours, it's going to take 8 hours. If I can do it in 10 minutes, but I give it to you and I give you a absurd amount of time to do it,
The
it's going to take that amount of time. And
time,
then I'm going to be mad at you for it.
time, quality, and money. There's trade-off. Always
Yeah.
time, quality, money.
The truth is, none of those are true because it's hard out here.
It's just hard. You know, a lot of the stuff that we think is like systemic issues, it's really just that it's hard.
I don't think anything's hard. Physically, maybe.
Well,
Over time, that becomes
okay, so
easier.
like you have a knife in your stomach right now versus not having a knife in your stomach right now.
It's not hard. It's just
Well,
painful.
well, okay,
It's just
so
gonna
like,
hurt a lot.
so you're going to this absolute non-relative position where nothing is hard and nothing is not hard. Like relative to you pushing me backwards and you not being there, me just walking forwards, it's easier for me to walk forwards without somebody pushing me backwards. Just on this relative scale, right? I think that as both leaders and managers, we want to facilitate. We want things to be as easy as possible. And sometimes that means being there and
A manager
persuading.
wants things to be easy as possible.
Okay.
A manager wants things to be easy as possible because that makes their job easier. If the parameters are 102 weeks, and it would be easier if it was 110 and 16 days, the manager is going to fight for 110 and 16 days. However, the people executing said task become used to 110 and 16 days. So the next project that comes along, and the manager's manager or the manager whoever says, hey, last time you did 110 and 16 days. In order to stay on quarterly budget, I need you to do 90 in 12 days. Well, that just became hard because before was easy.
Yeah, and that's all I'm saying is
manager
that when you put it in
making things
quotes, that is to
easy.
de-absolutize it and bring it back to a relative situation. That's what the quotes do.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
like given that this is relative, it's easier for me to get a job done without somebody blocking me from doing it. And so
So here's the thing, and the point I'm trying to make or getting to is if I'm pushing against you at 14 pounds per square inch,
right.
the
That
more
lower
you
right
do that,
approach, yeah.
it will become easy.
Yeah.
You get stronger,
Yeah.
whether I get weaker or not. Like you
From
will
my
get stronger.
perspective, yeah.
It will become easy, and then I push it 18 pounds per square inch.
Right.
So a leader keeps you just outside your comfort zone, because if not, you aren't growing. And if you aren't growing, the team isn't growing, and I'm just a manager.
Yeah. If the leader's goal is your growth, right? Not keeping you in place or not, not trying to demotivate you from going somewhere, then yeah, you're trying to encourage growth. Growth requires challenge. Challenge is perceived as difficulty in a lot of cases.
So yeah,
I think,
that's
though,
a big difference between a leader and a manager. As a manager,
in my
may or may
opinion-
not want your growth. A leader expects growth. That's how that has to work. You're leading someone. If I was just leading you to said task with a standard of practice, I'm a manager. I'm not a leader.
In my opinion, there's sort of a tendency, like what we're describing as management, I'm trying to characterize that as a lower right thing and not equate it with a particular developmental level. And I think that when we're talking about the manager who's 100% efficiency, 100% trying to get things down to bare bones productivity numbers, profit revenue numbers, that is an orange meme. That's orange
manager.
meme in the bottom right. Yeah, that's industrial level. Higher level, postmodern management, it's not the optimized solution isn't necessarily optimized for efficiency or value or time. Management begins to take on the notion of peace and productivity and prosperity resulting from people actually feeling fulfilled and happy in the workplace. So this is kind of that reversal of classic capitalistic principles. And this is what I would like to see opening up more is we've always kind of put those kind of systemic management types in this category as sort of these soulless, reptilianoid overseers or something without integrating that leadership tendency and without having the interpersonal cultural connection in the workplace. But I think that the newer form of management is to embrace notions of culture and notions of collective values as a system too, and quantifying it the way that the lower right tends to. I mean, I think you're totally right that is what's happening, but I think that management can take on higher level expressions that aren't always just trying to grind out numbers. They're like, well, here's our number, but actually what we're finding is that if we dial that one down a little bit, they'll, over the longer time horizon, they won't quit their job as much. And we'll have positive reviews.
That's a leader manager or a manager developing into a leader.
So maybe as you develop upward, you
It's like a
integrate the
spectrum.
quadrants more as you develop upward.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've all had that manager at some low or high level job that is just strictly about the numbers and they don't care. Office Space is a perfect example. It's top down leadership. It's top down management. Like there is no leadership in top down. You are
Yeah,
going to do
Office
this
Space is
because I
like
said so.
horrible leadership with like functional management. Like the company's running, everything's fine, but everyone hates it there and everyone sucks.
Yeah, that's a great manager.
Yeah.
It's going well. The
Yeah.
manager's going to bonus on that. But
Every time you
everyone
see
hates that
Lumberg, you
person.
hate your life more and you want to quit.
Yeah, everyone feels stifled. People have better ideas, but they fall on deaf ears if they're entertained at all. Yeah, that's a beautiful example of excellent management with no leadership.
And that's what we're also scared of, I think, in terms of like the orange meme being so powerful and so ubiquitous, is that is the systems that it creates, is it they turn you out. You become their little, I hate the word wage slave because it's such an insult to the concept of slavery, but
Yeah,
wage
slut,
servant. Yeah, wage slut. I like that better. Slightly
wage
less
prostitute.
problematic.
I am going to work for you because you pay me X dollars and no one else is offering me that much. That's what Office Space was all about.
Yeah.
All of them wanted to quit, but no one else was going to pay them what
And the
penetrate
moral
or whatever
conundrum,
that.
like I could actually do as these knuckleheads are doing. I could rip this company off and be filthy rich. And is that it more immoral than being one of these like fat cats that's just like, you know, one of the Bobs or whatever? They just are these goofy chuckleheads that just show up and make terrible decisions every day, like, and they make all this money. So is that really different from siphoning off fractions of a penny from every transaction?
Which I've always called the Lex Luthor effect, right? Like what are we going to do, Lex Luthor? It wasn't Lex Luthor. It was Richard Pryor. He was the one who did it. I forget his name in the movie, but Richard Pryor was doing that. Lex Luthor caught on and allowed him to keep doing it because he recognized villain. It wasn't Lex Luthor doing that. Boy, my life changed after that. It was Richard Pryor. Yes. So, in that sort of dictatorship Office Space realm, we are watching a movie. And so there's a person who doesn't actually exist with no real backstory, the villain. And then there's these guys that don't really exist that share a little bit of their motivation with the viewer. And they're the good guys. Had Superman 3 with Richard Pryor been filmed differently, Richard Pryor may have been the hero. Well, he kind of ended up being neutral. But the motivations of people is something that leaders look into. And that's why altitudes and spiral dynamics help sort of figure out motives of people. Kind of.
I'm just imagining like James all of a sudden like gets the power to fly and use like X-ray eyes and shit, and all of a sudden like Elon Musk is just like, oh, we've got to contain that. We've got to contain that. It's obviously a very frightening, very terrible energy for one person to have for themselves. So I've been making technologies to try and suppress James Gonzalez's abilities. They are a threat. They are a threat to the human race. You exactly now you're the supervillain. Like Superman is a damn colossal threat to the planet.
Yeah,
and who's going to stop him? Who's going to stop him?
Whole splinter cells of the series where Superman becomes evil.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, no one's going to stop him. That's who. Kryptonite bullets.
Not so super now.
you got everything. All the other superheroes have
I'm
like one
super. Thanks for asking.
I'm super serial right
Superman.
now. So when we talk about like the Robin Hood thing that happens in Office Space and so many other things, like the oppressed good guy steals from the rich and either keeps it or gives it to the poor, or just to take down the hierarchy, patriarchy, whatever it is, taking down the archy. We have no backstory of how this happened.
Yeah.
We're given this little slice of a story, and over a long enough timeline, as we were talking before, that voice actor just becomes a tyrant Like maybe it'll be worse if this person is funded. That we don't know. We can guess, kind of, but motivations change. So the back to the matter at hand, communication is a big portion of the change between management and leadership. A manager gives you a very narrow view so that you couldn't overtake them. That's not always the case, but knowledge is power to a manager. I know more of the story than you do, and so I can give you little chapters.
I think that also occurs in bad leadership as well. Knowledge is power.
Well, a bad leader is a manager. Well, not necessarily.
I love this though. I love how we naturally split off in this way because I'm clearly the pro management. I'm pro introvert, and you're like pro leadership, pro extrovert. It's like it's pretty cool. Like we have our little baseball teams.
I don't know if you've had a good leader.
Maybe 2 or 3, but no. I've always been in the position where it's like, well, if this is going to have leadership, it's going to be me, and I'm rubbish at it. But yeah, no, I don't think I've had good leaders, particularly good.
Talking to the person who runs the company I work for this week, a lot of what he had said is our product matters, but it's not the point. Our response times and our systems matter, but they're not the point. The point is developing people. We want, and this is not like drinking the corporate Kool-Aid. It's actually genuinely how he feels, is if we develop better people, those other things fall into place. Who I would be happy for the person, this is him talking, and I've said it before as well, but I would be happy for the person that we pour all of our energy into to make a better person. Not just at work, but also at home, at play, all of these. Just if we can develop better people and then they leave, as long as for something that they perceive as better, great. I'm happy for them. And we'll welcome them with open arms if they want to come back. Mm-hmm. But developing the people, everything else just kind of comes. A developed person sees the bigger picture, sees that they have a role to play, and knows that their input is valuable. I think we should stop
I've never been in that
transit vans.
I've never been in that workplace in my entire life. Yes, that I would agree. Yeah, so what you're calling leadership, I've never experienced it.
It's not common.
But I can tell you what is effective for me. I was in a role, let's say a software cannabis role. And
let's just make up a fake scenario. Let's say it's cannabis software.
It's not fake. It's just the details are boring and irrelevant. So I had a manager. There were people trying to lead me. There were people trying to manage me. I was in a system, but there was one particular individual who I considered a mentor. And what they did, they would give me a very realistic, attainable, actionable thing to do with very non-specific. It'd be like, create a web server. And if I ask questions, they're not going to respond. What I have to do is create a web server and then post a picture or a link to it so that they know it exists, so that they can give me my next instruction. For me, the way my mind and my body and my personality and habits work, that was the best leadership possible because I very quickly developed in my abilities. And I didn't have someone telling me the answers. So that means I tried out all the wrong solutions in my research and in my path so that I kind of knew I started to gain a proclivity towards finding the right path. Whereas if you're just working through a course, they're just showing you, okay, first you go down this path, then you go down this path, then you go down this path. And you don't really understand why that's the progression. But if someone's just like, okay, at the end of this process, we're going to have an entirely functional set of tools, an entirely functional data and analytics system for this entire company. That's the end game. And I have all the steps in my own little secret cupboard. I have every single step to get there in the vaguest terms possible, hashed out. And I'm just deploying those one at a time at Adam, and Adam is working his way through them. But That requires the manager to be a cognitive genius. Most people, I couldn't do that. Most people couldn't do that. So they rely more on the give and take moment to moment. Like, okay, we're somewhere around this point in the process, and now we're going to try moving into that. That's more my leadership style because I'm not a freaking genius.
That's risky.
It is. This was a very special thing, but this is what I
gamble.
always dream of, is just having someone who understands the whole system, understands the milestones, and we're just lining up milestones.
So how you are a particular person that thrived in that environment. How long did that process take? Like how long, what was your time frame?
For that's the goal that I just identified, like building this whole server and stuff.
What
It was
are
about
your
6
time
months, I
frames?
guess. It was about 6 months to build it.
Did you know it was 6 months when you started, or that's just how
It was
long it took?
irrelevant to me. I was just doing like they knew, the manager knew. I had no idea.
Did they tell you like 6 months was that's right?
The
What I'm
big,
getting at
the big
is,
picture was not my responsibility. I just had to do every step along the way.
I have worked with you in the past, and you are a unique snowflake, butterfly, penguin slide, in that you would thrive in that. You're a
Yeah,
very unique individual in that
yeah,
case. Someone else, most other people without parameters, like myself, if I'm given a task with zero parameters, I always think I'm failing. Always. Because I'm harder on myself than anyone else in the world could possibly be.
yeah.
Yeah, just do this. I would have a million questions. What's my budget? What's my time frame? Like I don't need if obviously I wouldn't be given the task. Well, not obviously. I wouldn't be given a task that's outside of my wheelhouse. That's that part aside. Okay, so how much can I spend on this? No answer. Okay? And then how long can I take on this? No answer. Okay? Every day, every hour that ticks by and every dollar I spend, I'm going to be fired. In my mind, like this is too much time and this is too much money. And so, as an employee in this situation, I would quit. You lost me because one person might look at that and say, oh, that's great. He's going to spend the least amount of money and spend the least amount of time because every dollar he spends and every hour that ticks by, he's like pushing harder. No one wants to live in that environment.
In that situation, I didn't.
Except you.
Yeah, I didn't really care how they felt about me or whether I was going to get fired. What I knew is that I was growing my skills very rapidly, and I was also getting paid while I did it, and that was enough to keep me motivated. But the best part that I didn't tell you is you'll like this because it's dad style. It was like
Yes.
when I would submit that picture. Okay, here's the web server. Okay, why is it white? White's a dumb color. That would be his response.
Yeah.
Or like, what? It's just Times New Roman. Why would you do that? So it would be like a criticism of the thing
I
that
did
I
have a
wasn't
leader
considering.
kind of like that.
Yeah, it's like, okay, make a birdhouse. Okay, here it is. Well, why isn't it painted? Okay, it's painted.
Why aren't birds living?
Yeah,
in
why
it?
isn't there seed in it? Are you gonna hang it up? Like,
So
you
I
didn't know
actually
the next step? Like,
right back to the dream journal episode. I can remember a dream very clearly from about 6 years ago. I was at a conference. There was about 60 peers and leaders, peers and management there, and one of my peers came up and asked me a question, and I had to log on to our server to answer it. So I pulled out my laptop, which at the time was like a gaming laptop. I got it on Black Friday. Sweet deal. But it was the size of like an office desk. Like, so I pulled this thing out, like, all right, and I open it up and hit power. Just,
you're talking about my laptop right now. It's right here.
yeah. And so my boss at the time came over and he's like, what is that? I was like, this is the only like portable laptop I have. It's my personal laptop. It's a gaming laptop. It's actually pretty awesome if you're into gaming. And he's like, okay. And then he pulls out his like Apple
Let's
whatever.
do this.
Yeah, it kind of looked down at me on it. He didn't really. He laughed, and he made a joke about it, but it wasn't like an attacking joke. We both kind of laughed. But then that night, I had a very vivid dream. that it was the next. I dreamt about the next day at the seminar, and I had gone out and bought an Apple Air, whatever. I bought like basically the same laptop he had, but better. And I set it up, and I'm like super proud. I don't even need it out, but I set it out on the table, and I open it up, and I'm like, and he walks by. He's like, "Oh, you bought silver." Like, damn it. It's like nothing I could do would be enough for this guy. And that sort of played into our relationship as coach and mentoree, in that he was always pushing for something else. And I've shared with him in personally and in groups, that is his kryptonite. Is he doesn't celebrate enough with people. I'm not saying like let's be halfway through the race and pop the champagne, but once you get to the race, his style is like, all right, next race. What can we do better at the next race? There's very little acknowledgement of the benchmarks hit, and he knows that.
It's so important. It's so important, psychologically important.
So there's another sort of leadership saying that goes out, which is less Superman, more Yoda. A lot of managers, if I were to come in and say,
and
hey,
both
I'm having
are
trouble
leadership.
with this.
Those are both leadership, yeah.
Yeah, if I came in and said, hey, I'm having trouble with this, a Superman would be like, no problem. Watch. Done. And the Yoda character says, okay, well, what happened when you did this? What happened when this happened? They wouldn't give you an answer. They would walk you down the path of finding the answer yourself, hand in hand, or, in backpack on back. The Yoda character will help you, but never give you the answer.
And what about
Superman just does it.
What about your Miyagi, who tells you a bunch of bullshit to do that turns out to be the answer in the end? It doesn't fit the model. Get out of here.
I think there were times, I'm not familiar enough with the movies, but I think there were times that Yoda told him to do things that he knew would fail.
Yeah, Yoda, I think his Yoda would be like, well, this is the way to be a Jedi, but he was like morally gray, and that was actually a strength. So he's like, well, no, I'm going to go save my friends in passion. And I'm gonna,
okay. Well, I'll just
fine,
stay
Luke.
back here and
Whatever,
die,
Luke.
I guess.
Yeah, I guess you know better than Yoda, who's 900 fucking years old and has more force than anyone.
I'll just die
Except
back
Ray.
here. We'll never see each other again.
Yeah.
Have fun though, storming the castle. So it's more Yoda, less Superman. That's that phrasing is very intentional. Sometimes Superman is necessary. Sometimes a person needs you to set the example, because same thing in the situation of no riverbanks. Like you had 0 riverbanks. Just get it done.
Well,
get what done?
Exactly. Some of
Exactly.
that might be kind of the split that happens from Amber to Orange, where I think from Amber prior, you're always looking for heroes and idols. And from Orange onward, you consider everyone to be equals. It's like, oh, you're better at this and this, but we're all coming for, we're all a bunch of dumb.
I need you for
sapiens.
this, and you need me for that.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll get better, and so someone else will need one or neither of us.
And so they're looking more for a Yoda, or just like someone who leads you down a particular path of development because they're further along it, as opposed to someone who's just like, don't worry about it. I got this. Well, don't worry about what? Like I'm like, why do you have, why should I not worry about it? But you do. What are you up to? Because we're equal, right? Well, that's a developmental thing. I wonder.
Well, your title is different, and your pay is different, and everything else is different. But yeah, I guess we're equal. I have you on visual. All around the mulberry bush. Around goes the weasel. Around the mulberry bush. Pop goes the weasel.
Well, we talked a lot about leadership and management, and we seem to hash it out. We seem to be on the same page about the leadership taking place in the lower left, management taking place in the lower right. And we started talking a little bit about the vertical development aspects, particularly a lot of interesting stuff happens from amber to orange, from orange to green. We haven't really looked at what happens after green. And I think that as we're talking here, this recognition that there are these two quadrants occurs. And so you start seeing these roles, leadership roles or management roles, as kind of different from one another. And it stands out to me a lot how much people are placed in a position where you're supposed to do both leadership and management, and that individual is only good at one of those two things. It's just, this stands out to me a lot in workplaces. Yeah. I would say particularly in cannabis, because I've and this is not to pigeonhole anyone. I've worked for several companies, small, big, corporate, illegal, and there's always these issues with not like too many cooks in the kitchen, but like, what are we going to do with this stovetop and refrigerator we have? Just like, because it's such a guerrilla operation. And so someone's put into, like, they just have that charisma and that leadership ability. And all of a sudden it's like, well, you set the schedule, you set the timeline, you set the productivity and our KPI measurements. It's like, that person sucks at that. They're good at dodging the law. They're good at selling things on the black market. That's not someone who's doing the program. That's not someone who's following the program and persuading others to do so. To name one industry that has its own quirks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they all sort of have similar quirks. Legality, I've only dealt with in one industry.
Each industry has its own, yeah.
Yeah, but so, for example, the company that my wife works for sets goals, unrealistic goals, time-bound goals, and really pushes, like taskmaster pushes to meet these goals, and they never do. Top down, you have to get this done. Why is it taking you so long? And then they don't. It's like a group of people, and they don't make the goal again, and so they push it back. And I don't know if this is just poor management or if, for whatever reason, they think giving the unrealistic goal will motivate somehow to get it done faster. And it doesn't. It demoralizes. So it's another version of management versus leadership. A leader really wouldn't set an unrealistic goal in the attempt to keep you progressing and sort of out of your comfort zone, learning to do it faster. That's a top-down way of doing it.
It's whip it harder, it'll run faster.
Right.
With people, that's going to ultimately, like, they're going to remember this.
Yeah, whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger. That's not usually true. It's usually wearing us down.
And also, as you try to kill me little by little, I'm going to come back and get you too. I mean, it's just the problem with that whipping leadership is that they don't like you. Yeah, they're going to quit. They're going to mutiny. They're going to have.
And you have a larger problem on your hands. Hopefully, they quit and are just gone. Most likely, they're going to quit with a lawsuit. That's how we quit these days.
But what we haven't brought in, I think, is types. I think types kind of play into this too. And one of the main ones I would describe myself as more introverted, you as more extroverted. And I think that fits into, like, the extrovert does leadership, getting people to do stuff by persuading them that we're all on the same task.
Yeah.
Whereas the introvert tries to do it on their own. They say, okay, I built this system. Here it is, guys. Just, I've given you roles. You do it. But I'm not actually trying to convince you of this. It's like, if the system makes sense to you, apply it. Let's go. Or, like, if my manager put me in this position to apply the system, we all have to trust them because they're above us. It's hierarchical in a positive way, growth hierarchy. Just like to recognize, I've been given this role. Here's the program. If you don't like it, give me the feedback. See, it's not closed. It's just like, if I'm a smart manager, I've created a system of feedback. I've created a system of criticism. I'm not in an ivory tower.
I teach feedback to a lot of people. Feedback it's a big pill to swallow for a manager to receive feedback, because that would mean that they're not perfect.
Well, it sounds like they have this manager has like self-esteem issues. Like, what do you mean? Like,
Everyone does.
everyone should be able to criticize their management, I think. Like if I am ever
So
in
that's
leadership, like,
the thing. So if you solicit feedback from your people, and you hear something that you don't want to hear, or you hear something that's
you
incorrect,
think is wrong, yeah. Which you will
what
generally
maybe you
do.
think it's wrong, or it is wrong.
Yeah.
It's just in human nature to explain yourself,
Mm-hmm.
or either shut them down. No, you're wrong. Or explain yourself. Well, here's why we had to do that. Here's why we had to do that. You will never get feedback again. You have to just take it. There's
Yeah.
two things you can say when receiving feedback, and that's thank you. Or can you be a little more specific? You can ask a specifying question. Oh, yesterday sucked. If you know exactly what that person's talking about, oh, okay, yeah,
And
thanks.
you're good, yeah.
If you have no idea what that person's talking about, like, well, what sucked about it? But you can't say, oh, it sucked because, our lunch was late, and so we had to take longer doing lunch, so we had to rush through the second half of it. You cannot say that. Oh, okay, yeah, didn't listen to me. I will never tell them feedback again. Or maybe once, and then that'll happen again. You lose feedback. There's another sort of leadership v management thing. A manager doesn't really want feedback.
I think they do if they're smart.
Necessarily.
I think they do if they're smart.
Well,
like,
that would be a leader.
or if they value their employees, if they value the people that are working under them. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just know better and they know that. That happened to me. I mean, that happens a good amount. But I think in general, all the people working under you are going to know that everyone has their own strengths, and they're all going to have little things that can help you. And so I don't necessarily.
I agree.
So I think a good manager
On
and
the
a good leader.
extremes of this is the perfect leader,
Mm-hmm.
and this is like entry level first time management. It's all a spectrum. Everything's a spectrum.
Yeah.
So a manager who elicits feedback and pivots their goals or changes the standard of practice, that's someone becoming a leader. Your typical office space manager don't want to hear it. There's already a process in place. Your feedback does not matter. So that person might say, no, you're wrong, or explain how stupid you are and not realizing the larger thing. That's like pure management. That's right at the, okay, you were something else, and this is your first time being a manager. If I could just get through to these people what the end goal is, then they'll stop complaining about it. Well, no. Why is there a complaint? Is it because something can be done differently? Is there an Adam in this group who sees this elephant and visualizes all the meals he's going to make to finish eating this elephant? Or is there a James in the group who sees this elephant and has no idea how we're ever going to eat this whole thing? If we come to the manager with feedback, a leader manager is going to elicit the feedback, pivot the standard of practice, pivot the goals. Thank you for your feedback. Where the more leader, less manager, where the more manager, less leader is going to re-explain what happened, or just tell you, I don't want to hear it.
Well, I think there's
Feedback's-
management that
feedback's
isn't a
the
closed
first step.
system. I think leadership can be a closed system. Do as I say, or else, and management can be a closed system. I don't need feedback. I know what I'm doing. I think both are true. Modern management, though, is very focused on, influence, like how the marketing is working, how the marketing is working, how the customer's responding, how the employees feel. And these things to the manager are quantifiable things. They're not environmental, they're not emotional, mood-based things. So it's like
Product.
yeah, the feedback would be much more we set a time for that. We have a venue for that, rather than I'm standing side by side with you approaching this problem, and I am guiding us together as we sort it out. I think is more like the leadership proclivity. As they develop upward as a leader, their ability to embrace other people's perspectives will increase, and the leadership will be less like, go do that, whip, whip. And it'll be more like, we're trying to do this. You're the better one at this. You go tackle that problem while I tackle this problem. And I think management can do the same things. It just does it in a different way. It's like, okay, so as far as I know, we've identified this problem. If everyone's on the same page as that, then you need to do this, you need to do this, I need to do this. That's what's up. If anyone has any problems, list them here. If there are no problems, that's the program. That's like developed, and to where you're saying they're bleeding into one another. It's no longer possible to ivory tower in one or the other. Like, especially if your role's not clearly defined, which it usually isn't. If your role isn't clearly defined in terms of, are you a motivator or are you a system builder? Like, most people don't even see that distinction. So you're most likely in a leadership role where it's unclear which of those things you're really expected to do. And so your natural personality type, whether you're more introverted, extroverted, whether you're more of a motivator or a builder, those are just going to come out in the way that you tackle the problem, both in terms of your quadrants and your development. So we're hoping for the highest development, and we're hoping to kind of either identify where we are in that split and honor that what we're coming from, embrace the other side of it as it manifests itself to us, or to transcend that barrier and actually become the leadership / manager that succeeds at both. That's a difficult thing to do. That's a fully integrated way to approach the problem. And it's taking on, it should delegate more. It's taking on all that responsibility on the self. So it's bad delegation.
So 2 quick comments. Every time I've gone up in a management hierarchy, I've asked my new leader, what are the parameters of my position? What can I delegate and what do I absolutely need to do myself? And then what freedom do I have to change the system? Mm-hmm. I ask everyone, every tier I move up.
Fundamental constraints.
These are things I need to know.
Yeah.
If I'm going to be effective in this position. The other thing I wanted to bring up is as society is rising in altitude, the workforce has changed. Our parents and our grandparents and to us to an extent, it was, I can be miserable at a job as long as I'm happy with the pay. And that's diminished from
my home life pays off what I do with most of my time. That is my reward. My retirement and my
shift
weekend.
That's happening is the money motivation or wage slut is going away. I would take less money, me or whatever. One would take less money if it's a role that is satisfying to them. They want to be satisfied with their work. They want to, at the end of the day or at the end of the project, feel some sort of fulfillment. And money isn't the motivator in that. It's job satisfaction.
And this is very clearly a cultural and social transition to green meme. It's to value the human experience in the present moment more than the promise of continuous growth, continuous improvement, the pie in the sky in the future at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, I attended a seminar not too long ago about how to keep employees, how to keep people if their only motivation is satisfaction. Like, because so easily in the past and so historically, it's just true. Someone's unhappy and threatens to leave, but they are a good cog in this machine. Just pay them more, and that would fix the problem, right? Like, just give them a little bump in pay, and they'll shut up and keep working for a while. That doesn't work anymore.
Yeah,
I'll give you a little more money. Well, no, that doesn't matter. I'm still unhappy here, and the extra $1 or $2 an hour doesn't make up for unhappiness. I don't want to be unhappy for 8 hours a day. To be slightly more surrounded by things in my off time. This is not a payoff anymore.
Yeah, like just in an episode about this, we'd have this like 1.5 minute, like, well, basically, I was like, stupid people just say the word basically all the time. So basically, I got a microphone, which I basically just got.
Like,
down Mississippi way.
Mississippi. I have to like.
I
take
hear they got
pause.
internet down Mississippi way.
Mississippi.
Well, we just got. Yeah, we have.
Mississippi boner. Put some mayonnaise on it. Need more mayonnaise.
There's this dude we knew who had a cat named Mississippi Boner.
Well, they assumed Mississippi was a girl until one of the people staying at the flop bus, was in the
The
outhouse,
flop
and
bus.
Mississippi was in there also, and Mississippi had an erection. Well, that's not usual with female cats, and so from the outhouse, the owner of the property or the squatter of the property yelled, "Mississippi has a boner!" So Mississippi Boner ended up being the cat's name.
The two of you make a real nice couple of Russian Jews. He also said that on a oft-quoted phone message. Yes, we are Russian Jews. As a matter of fact, Latvian Jews, the anti-Semitic Russians killed nearly all of my family. But anyways, go ahead and climb aboard, young children. We must make it to the stars.
The decks are made of candy, the sails are made of moonbeams, and the cannons are shooting marshmallow balloons. Anyway, make sure to comment, like, subscribe, share, and I'll see you next time.
Namaste. I was going to go to church today, but there's no reason to go to church now. Everything's changed. And I was able to...
We're checking frame rates. It's like I'm running at an incredible
This is
rate.
the thing we did to check if we were like tripping or something. I can remember Bobby doing that.
Well, I'm tripping. Yeah, if I weren't tripping, I am now. I'm having a good time.
I'm having a good time. I swear. I'll never do it again. In the morning with the pillow talk. I'm Rab Finkel Rabunchkin, and I prevent the cursor from showing up on faces. That's my role here.
And I'm Rab Finkel Rabunchkin III.
Good to meet you, Rab Finkel.
I'm here so I don't get fined. I woke up Sunday morning.
Wake up Sunday morning.
It was that type of day.
Is this a thing that I should know? Or am I just messing it up with my improvisations?
Improvisations.
I've been given no direction. I don't know what to do. But
used
if I
to be
go
the
any
party guy.
higher, I'm gonna get evicted from my place. So
And now I'm
we
just a
will-
tyrant.
You're a tyrant. I cannot
Evil
abide by your rules. I'm gonna go a place where nobody cares what you do. It's the truth. Me and you are gonna get kicked out of here. 2 out of 5 stars, lacking in follow through and proper critical insight. A little dated in terms of its message. A little vanilla.
Generally hated in terms of its vocalization and message.
I feel that the protagonist was kind of a Mary Sue.
I feel like if we get more radio time, people will change their minds.
Dude, James from the Unthink Me podcast is a total Mary Sue. Just,
Guilty.
we're going to get canceled.
I'm more of a Samantha.
All right. Well, it was a good song. I mean, okay, fine. It was a bad song.
Okay.
Okay. Bad bye.
Mediocre bye.
Mediocre bye.
Whenever the cat is not paying attention to me, which is always, she's facing the other way and you touch her at all, she does activation noise, which is similar to what you just said. Activated.
Gonna take a lot to take me away from you. There's nothing but a coming out of the rain, down in every So like people don't realize that's the melody that they like. It's 2 notes. The other part's not the melody they like. It's an awesome harmony.
Can I tell you something that I learned at a very young adult age?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a cold, buy Kleenex.
Mm-hmm.
You have infinite amounts of toilet paper. That's fine. That's just fine. Treat yourself. If you're going to go broke over something, let it be nice toilet paper for your and Kleenex when you're sick. Or
And why
facial
would that
tissue.
matter?
Quality of life.
I don't like Kleenexes. They take up too much space. This is a roll.
That sounds like it.
It's lots of
Yeah.
paper packed into a small space. If I had a bunch of Kleenex, I'd roll it up into a roll. You're just
So you'd
calling this
rather
toilet
it
paper so it seems gross to you because it has the word toilet in it. It's just
Well, no, it's
just
just like
a streamer of paper.
rolled 2-ply paper. It doesn't matter. It's fiber makeup. Is that will give you chapped nose?
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's like an actual like reasonable reason.
Yeah, quality of life.
I mean,
and,
the
like,
thing is, I got sick and I didn't immediately think to go to the store and buy a box of Kleenex with my life. I just got sick and needed something to blow my nose with.
If I get sick, I'm immediately buying a box of Kleenex, a new thing of honey, a couple lemons.
Immediately, I'm at work, and then when I get off work, I have a few things I want to do before I head to the store.
Quit your job.
Yeah.
DoorDash it then.
I can't.
You can. You just don't.
Okay, like case in point, like they literally don't like DoorDash is kind of exists in Mount Pleasant, kind of like at certain hours. Because I'm in the middle of nowhere, like all this stuff that seems like perfectly reasonable. This is why I don't like living in a small town in the middle of nowhere.
What's the population?
It's like the biggest college town.
12,000 or something.
Yeah, probably something. Yeah, like they have a Target and a Walmart's. And that's like,
Ooh.
yeah, they have like the strip.
Let's not go there. Let's go to the good Target.
It is a silly place. I missed it. All right, cool. Yeah.
What's the story with those goddamn golf shoes?
So do golfers wear those? Like what?
So if you're going to be running full speed and pivoting momentarily, those are going to be some deep cleats. Golf shoes have a little subtler a cleat because you're just standing still, and the point is not to go, what is it, pot over tea kettle or whatever it is.
What is pot over tea kettle?
You never heard that before? It's incorrect, but it's something like that.
Who are you to point your finger? You must have been out your head. You know that? Yeah, of course you do.
Okay.
Wait, pot over kettle? Kettle? What the fuck? Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
Are you gonna look it up because you
yeah.
don't know what it means?
Well, I know what it means. I don't know the one that's like
No, dude, I totally know what it means.
or half dozen to another.
No, dude, check this out.
I've never
Right
done.
now. I'm just retrieving from my fucking memory banks what the answer is. Like, I'm on top of this, man. I know everything. Okay.
Ass over tea kettle. Also is like the same as like head over heels, meaning like a somersault.
So you're just objectifying your body as a kettle? Do you think that's what is meant by David Bowie being a tea kettle?
I've never heard that.
Baby, I've gone ass over kettle.
Yeah. You're upside down.
It's getting
really Now you're upside upside
down for me. It's slippery in here. I need you to turn the heat down so I don't evaporate away, baby.